China is growing apprehensive about North Korean troops in Ukraine linked to Putin's pact with Kim Jong-un. Moscow is at the center of the debate, but Beijing also worries about its friend North Korea. With the U.S. urging China to rein in Pyongyang, Beijing is more cautious. China seeks stability, especially on the vital Korean Peninsula, as a rising Asian power. What does this entail for global relations? Explore the specifics in the video below. Russia-North Korea military cooperation. North Korea's escalating war rhetoric has increased the U.S. military presence in South Korea, complicating China's ambitions for Taiwan, especially before 2027. China, like Russia, has urged North Korea to avoid conflict, reflecting its concern over regional stability. North Korean troops, estimated at 18,000, are now active in Ukraine, operating missile systems and engaging directly in combat. Russia has acknowledged their involvement, with recent visits by North Korea's foreign minister to Moscow signaling deepening military cooperation. Hundreds of North Korean soldiers have been deployed near Ukraine's border, despite logistical challenges such as language barriers and command structure issues. Pyongyang's aid to Russia may be tied to its pursuit of advanced satellite technology from Moscow. While North Korea has pledged support for Russia's military efforts, its contribution of troops and millions of shells has yet to significantly alter the conflict's dynamics as Russia continues to face high losses, with 1,300 soldiers lost in a single month. The presence of North Korean troops marks a serious escalation, raising concerns about further conflict expansion. Both the U.S. and China are working to prevent this, with the U.S. urging China to leverage its influence to contain North Korea's involvement. Diplomatic efforts, including upcoming meetings between U.S. and South Korean officials, will address these developments and discuss closer cooperation between Moscow and Pyongyang. A shift in South Korea's stance on military aid to Ukraine may also be on the horizon, as the deployment of North Korean forces challenges the security of the Korean Peninsula, Europe, and global stability. Growing Chinese concerns and regional impact. North Korea's recent missile tests, including one claiming the ability to strike anywhere in the U.S., have alarmed China. These tests, marked by unprecedented range and public promotion, highlight North Korea's increasing reliance on solid fuel propellants, which make detection harder compared to liquid fuel alternatives. However, experts note that North Korea's large missile launchers are still easily spotted via satellite, reducing their strategic advantage. China's concerns stem from North Korea's growing unpredictability. While China has significantly cut food and grain exports to North Korea, contributing to one of the country's worst famines since the 1990s, Russia has stepped in, supplying 700,000 tons of rice annually. This support has strengthened North Korea's military capabilities, including advancements in ICBMs and technology, making Kim Jong-un a less controllable and more dangerous player in the region. Beijing is wary of North Korea's increasing alignment with Russia and fears losing influence over Kim. China's goal is regional stability and leadership, avoiding a destabilized Korean Peninsula or an emboldened coalition of Russia, Iran, and North Korea. These developments, coupled with China's concerns over being overshadowed in its sphere of influence, have likely left Beijing frustrated and cautious. Meanwhile, both Russia and Ukraine are ramping up drone production, a critical element of modern warfare. Putin recently emphasized the importance of responding quickly to battlefield demands, with reports suggesting that Russia and China are collaborating on drone development to maintain a technological edge. Russian drone development in China. European intelligence reveals that Russia is collaborating with China to produce long-range attack drones for the Ukraine war. The program, led by IEMZ Kupol, a subsidiary of state arms manufacturer Almaz Antey, focuses on mass-producing the Garpia 3 drone. This advanced drone, capable of carrying 110-pound warheads and traveling up to 2,000 kilometers, is based on the Garpia A1 but redesigned by Chinese experts. China handles manufacturing while Kupol conducts testing. Reports indicate that a Chinese facility is mass-producing G3 drones for deployment in Ukraine. This summer, a Russian intermediary transported 7 drones, including 2 G3s, to Kupol. Additionally, Russian firms like TSK Vector have coordinated production with Chinese suppliers such as Retal Plus, TSK Vector Industrial, linked to a project in Kashgar, Xinjiang. China denies knowledge of any secret drone project and claims to monitor exports. However, reports of Russian forces using Chinese-made consumer drones like DJI suggest limited control over such activities. If proven, the covert drone collaboration would represent a significant escalation, providing lethal support to Russia despite sanctions. This development has raised alarms in the U.S. National Security Council, highlighting potential geopolitical and strategic consequences for China. Russia-China territorial trade. China has been cautious in its support for Russia to avoid international backlash. Initially, when the U.S. threatened penalties, Chinese banks reduced their dealings with Russia. However, helping produce drones for the Ukraine war would invite more sanctions and global disapproval. Despite these risks, China's support for Russia has been crucial for Moscow's survival under sanctions. In Q4 2023, China supplied 70% of Russia's ballistic missile production machinery and 90% of its microelectronics, vital for the war effort. In exchange, China may gain access to the Tumen River, a strategic waterway flowing from China and North Korea into Russia. The river spans 324 miles, with 40% in China-Russia territory. Historically, it was Chinese land lost to Russia under the Treaty of Aigun in the 19th century. Despite the Sino-Soviet Agreement of 1991, which allowed limited access, China has struggled with infrastructure for large ships, especially since the river is shallow. Today, China seeks to leverage Russia's vulnerability to gain better access to the Tumen River, which would reduce sailing time to the Sea of Japan and facilitate trade with North Korea and Japan. This move would significantly boost China's commercial activity, benefiting 3 eastern Chinese provinces. Wang Wen, Executive Dean of Renmin University's Pyongyang Institute for Financial Studies, explained that allowing larger vessels to pass through the Tumen River would reduce transportation costs, boosting trade with Japan and South Korea. During a May 2024 summit in Beijing, Putin and Xi discussed the river, emphasizing long-term cooperation. Russia and China are negotiating access for Chinese vessels with North Korea, with Russia agreeing to let Chinese warships travel the last 15 kilometers of the river. However, North Korea remains the main obstacle as it profits from Chinese goods passing through the Rasan port. Putin visited North Korea in June 2024 to propose a new bridge over the Tumen River, building on the 1959 Korea-Russia Friendship Bridge. While North Korea may hesitate to ratify the agreement, Putin could offer the land to China if necessary, as it is largely unused. Meanwhile, Russia faces significant military challenges. The T-55 tank, an outdated Soviet model, has been reactivated in response to Ukraine's artillery attacks. Satellite images show that many of these 1948 tanks, stored for over a decade, are being brought back into service, though reactivating them is costly and complex. Russia also struggles with a brain drain, with up to 1 million Russians, many skilled in weapon design and manufacturing, fleeing the country in 2022-2023. This has led Russia to rely more on China for technological support. Putin's original plan for a quick victory in Ukraine has backfired. 2.5 years into the war, he is still fighting, with resources stretched thin and the situation exacerbated by Ukraine's surprise attack on Kursk in August 2024. Dire situation and heavy losses in Russia. Ukraine's drone assaults have struck deep into Russia, causing significant damage and unsettling Putin. In early September 2024, 140 Ukrainian drones targeted multiple Russian districts, including a strike near Moscow that killed 1 woman and injured 8. Fires destroyed 2 residential buildings, and 5 others were evacuated. Airports like Vnukovo, Domodedovo, and Zhukovsky were shut down due to drone threats. Ukraine also attacked Russian oil reservoirs, military sites, and a missile storage facility. On September 1st, another drone strike hit a Russian refinery and power complex. Ukraine has strategically attacked airfields, military locations, and oil refineries. A Ukrainian missile hit Russia's Black Sea Navy headquarters in Crimea, and Ukrainian forces destroyed 15 air defense systems, including S-300, S-350, and S-400, along with radar stations and control centers in Crimea. Additionally, Ukraine bombed military bases in Belgorod, Voronezh, and Luhansk, crippling Russia's war machine. As of September 17, 2024, Russia's casualties exceeded 61,000, including 45,10 men, 8180 tanks, 15,715 armored vehicles, 20,269 vehicles and fuel tanks, 15,251 artillery systems, 1115 rocket systems, 883 air defense systems, 361 airplanes, 326 helicopters, 1973 drones, 28 ships, and 1 submarine. With losses mounting, Putin is increasingly reliant on China for support to replenish his military and artillery stock. Russia's dire situation is worsened by continuous international aid to Ukraine. Sweden contributed $2.14 billion, including F-16 jets, and Australia sent 160 anti-drone systems. The UK also authorized the use of British Challenger 2 tanks in Ukraine. As casualties continue to rise, Russia struggles to sustain its military efforts. Putin's position remains precarious despite support from China, which has cost him territorial concessions. As public dissatisfaction grows, Putin faces rejection from both the military and the general populace. The army, plagued by morale issues and equipment shortages, is pressuring him. Since 2022, over 10,000 soldiers have refused to serve, and more than 18,000 have fled. Desertions and low morale have become significant problems, with 339 soldiers charged with desertion as of June 2024. Putin's reliance on the drone project reflects his desperation, particularly after losing support from key allies and militia leaders. In 2024, George Zakrevsky, a militia commander, called for soldiers to overthrow Putin, criticizing his handling of the war. Oligarchs who once funded Putin's efforts are withdrawing their support, with billionaire Oleg Tinkov publicly denouncing the war, citing its devastating impact on innocent lives. Economically, Russia is struggling. Sanctions and war-related disruptions have slowed growth by 5%, with GDP falling 2.1% and government revenue down 35%. In 2023, Russia faced a $23.3 billion budget deficit, and inflation increased basic commodity prices by 25%. With China unable to provide direct financial aid due to U.S. threats, Putin's economic and military challenges are mounting. He hopes that a secret drone project could shift the war's momentum in Russia's favor. Putin's alternatives are shrinking as Russia's military and resources weaken. China, seeing Russia's weakness, benefits strategically from this crisis. China might strengthen its regional influence and help Putin stay in power by arranging a land exchange with Russia. Both countries' shifting alliances and concessions might redefine the balance of power in this high-stakes geopolitical game, affecting global politics.